Hi, this is SpookyRecapped here, and today I'm going to recap the movie Shutter. The movie starts out with the couple getting married, Ben and Jane. Ben is a photographer, and the couple is about to move to Tokyo for Ben's new job. When they get to Tokyo, they're driving to a cabin to spend their honeymoon when a woman steps out in front of the car. Jane hits the woman and the car crashes. They get out of the car to look for the woman until police arrive, but she is nowhere to be found. They finally make it to the cabin, although Ben has hurt his shoulder in the crash. The next day, Jane can't stop thinking about the girl, but Ben reassures her that the girl is fine. He then takes a photograph of Jane on the balcony. When the honeymoon is over, the couple goes to Ben's new job, and Jane is introduced to his old friend, Bruno. After meeting Bruno, he shows them the studio, which is below their new apartment. They then go upstairs to see their new home, and Jane is ecstatic. Bruno leaves, and Ben and Jane get settled in the new apartment. The next day, Ben's shoulder still hurts as they look at the photos from their honeymoon. They notice some strange light glitches in the photos, but doesn't think much of it. Ben is doing a photo shoot, so Jane goes outside to explore the city. She walks around taking photographs and saves one of herself in the casino. She comes back later and enters the studio as Ben is wrapping up the shoot. Ben's assistant looks at the photo Jane took and notices strange lights in the photographs. She tells Jane that they are spirit photos and invites her to come see her ex-boyfriend, who works as an editor of a supernatural magazine. At dinner, Jane is introduced to another old friend of Ben's, Adam. Adam is the one who finds the models. The next day, Ben is at another photo shoot. When adjusting the camera, he notices a strange woman in the shoot. But when he looks again, she's gone. Meanwhile, Ben's assistant brings Jane to meet her ex-boyfriend. Jane looks through a magazine and is told that most of the pictures are faked. She is then taken to a room full of Polaroids that are real. The ex-boyfriend tells Jane about a medium called Mirase and how only Polaroids cannot be faked. We then cut to Ben, who's editing his photos. He notices the same woman in the negatives and her head starts moving, so he goes out to get some water in his face. Jane is at a train station on her way home. When the train starts driving, she sees the woman in a reflection, freaking her out. When she comes home, Ben is in a bad mood. All the photographs he took has a weird light in them, so they are completely ruined. Jane asks Ben if he has felt anything strange lately, but he says that he hasn't. They get into an argument, and Jane leaves. The next day, Ben goes to the doctor, and he has apparently gained a lot of weight and his spine is slightly curved. When rinsing out his photos later, someone hums and touches Ben's ear. The phone rings and Ben goes out to pick it up. It's Jane on the phone, and Ben realizes that it wasn't her in the other room. He slowly walks back into the room and sees the woman sitting in his chair. Jane hears the screams and starts running home. When she enters the apartment building, she finds Ben sitting in a chair. Luckily, he is okay, but do not remember how he got there. They then go to see Mirase, and they show him the photographs they took. Mirase explains that the lights might be a spirit, and the spirit has unfinished business. Suddenly, he starts yelling, and Ben wants to leave. Ben goes back to work, and Jane goes home. Jane looks at the photographs from Ben's shoot and decides to go to the building where the light is. She arrives at the building and takes the elevator up many floors. When Jane leaves the elevator, the light starts to flicker, and Jane enters a room. She starts taking photographs of the room with a Polaroid camera. She checks one of the photos and sees the woman is standing in the room, This freaks her out, and when trying to run, the door slams shut and a picture falls down. She checks the photo and recognizes the woman. When turning the picture around, she sees that it is Ben who took the photo. Back in the studio, Ben has just wrapped up the shoot. When checking the equipment, the light goes out and lights start to flash. The woman is right behind Ben, and he falls down and crawls towards the door. Jane turns on the lights. When they get home, Jane shows Ben the photo she found. He explains that her name is Megumi, and they used to date a long time ago. She became too dependent on Ben and tried harming herself when he tried to break up with her. Ben got Bruno and Adam to talk to her, and after that, she left him alone. After the explanation, Ben and Jane decides to move back to New York. When Jane is asleep, Ben calls Bruno to ask him if he has seen Megumi recently. Bruno says he saw her in the street the other day, just staring at him. The next day, Adam is working with a model, taking photos of her, when something moves in his camera. When focusing, something attacks Adam, hurting his eye. At the hospital, Ben calls Bruno to tell him that Adam has died, but Bruno is cutting up pictures with a razor. Ben gets worried, so him and Jane goes to Bruno's apartment. Jane sees the photographs has been cut into pieces, and Bruno comes out in his underwear. He suddenly runs to the balcony and jumps to his death. When Ben and Jane gets back home, she looks at the wedding photos and sees Megumi is in there as well. Jane wants to find her, so they track her down and finds her house. When no one answers the door, they go inside and Jane finds Megumi's room. Before leaving, they look through a window and sees Megumi sitting in a chair. Jane slowly approaches her and Megumi's head falls back, revealing her rotting corpse. They go to a hotel to spend the night, and when they fall asleep, someone touches Ben. He wakes up and sees Megumi in the other side of the room, slowly approaching him. She sits on his lap and starts to undress, revealing her rotting body. Jane wakes up, and Megumi is nowhere to be seen. Ben goes to the bathroom to wash his face, and when he returns, Megumi is in a chair, combing her hair. He backs up against a wall, and Megumi puts her tongue in his mouth. Jane wakes up and sees Ben struggling to breathe. She yells at Megumi, but she is attacked and struggles to get free. When she finally gets free, she runs down to check on Ben, who has luckily started breathing again. The next day, they go to Megumi's funeral, and her body gets cremated. They're now back at their old apartment in New York, and the nightmare is finally over. Jane wakes up the next morning and sees a heart made of roses on the table. She later picks up the photographs from their wedding, but sees Megumi crawling towards a picture on the wall. Jane checks the picture, but doesn't find anything, so she goes into the next room behind the picture and finds an old suitcase. Inside of the suitcase, she finds a camera. She puts the memory card into a computer and is horrified by what she sees. When Ben comes home, Jane puts down the laptop and shows Ben the photos from the camera. They're all of Bruno and Adam abusing Megumi. Jane gets furious and pushes Ben to the floor. He explains that Bruno, Adam, and Ben drugged Megumi and took embarrassing photos of her. Jane realizes that Megumi wasn't trying to hurt her, but actually tried helping her to see Ben for what he really is. When Jane leaves, the door locks behind her. Ben starts taking photographs around the room to locate Megumi. He throws the camera to the ground, and it takes his photo. When checking the picture, he sees the reason why his shoulders hurt, and he had gained weight. Megumi is sitting on his shoulders. To get rid of her, he turns on the light equipment and shocks his own neck. He pulls out the cord, puts it to his temple, and electrocutes himself. We then cut to Ben, who's in a care facility, as he has become brain dead. When the nurse leaves, we see a reflection of Megumi, who's clinging on to Ben. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe for more content like this. And stay spooked, people.